Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome to Ole Walls! Let's get fucking listening, baby! Yes! Welcome to Ole Walls House. It's me. It's your man. It's your main man. It's Ole Walls. And I'm back again, ladies and gentlemen. Episode number 68 of Ole Walls House coming your way. As you can see me. I'm Ole Walls. I'm here. I'm on video. Hopefully this is working. And I am actually on video that you can see on Spotify or YouTube. I don't think any of the other things I send it to do audio or do video, just audio only. Hopefully you're still hearing all the audio only clearly. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you. I appreciate you guys. Hopefully this is working. If it isn't, I'm sorry. If it is, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching along. So yeah, now on video. So I am on YouTube now. Ole Walls House. If you just search that, it's right there. You'll find it. Want to give a couple shout outs for the video. First, for the guy who kind of helped push me into this, Dean at the Tailgate Foodie. He kind of gave me a little shove. He's like, just go ahead, figure it out, and do it, and then just go for it. So, Dean, thanks. Appreciate it. Got to give a shout out to Kevy. Big Kevy has been kind of my sounding board whenever I need advice on video stuff. I'm an idiot, like in more ways than one, but technology and video stuff for sure. So, thank you, Kevy, for kind of being my sounding board and throwing me some stuff back and forth. So thank you guys. I'm going to try this. If you guys ever want to send in the call-in line on Anchor or, Spotify for podcasters, whatever it is now, that's not really going to be a thing anymore because of the way how I have to send this out. So if you want to send in videos with questions or comments to olewallshouse@gmail.com, go for it. We can do that. You can send in anything to that. So yeah. Now, very important new service. Please rate, subscribe, please. Rate, review, comment, subscribe, and share. And tell everybody about it. Tell them I'm on video now. Check it out. So, got a fun show coming up. Got my man MJ. We're going to talk NFL draft. We go in depth here with this. So, buckle up. It's a good one. After that, we talk some NBA playoffs. We talk a little NHL playoffs. Some golf discussion, my passing thoughts, talk about the Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia fight. So, fun show coming your way. Again, hopefully everybody sees it all and you can see this, ugly mug of mine, on whatever way you're, watching and or listening. So yeah, let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, he's here. Our draft guru, the one, the only MJ. MJ also joining us as our first person in video here. Hopefully when this gets out to the masses, it's working. So, MJ, thanks for being the guinea pig, and thanks for coming to talk NFL draft, man.
Man, I appreciate it. I was thinking about it today. I was like, this could be the legendary moment of the first ever Ole Walls House on camera video, and I'm the guest. So I'm very honored. I appreciate it. I am here to pass as much knowledge about the draft. I do not consider myself a scout or anything like that. I do a lot of just research and reading, trying to educate the people, I guess, today.
There you go. Perfect. Well, I think we're kind of going to just run through it here. But before we kind of dive into it, how many pages of research do you have going on? I know when we were talking, the pages were racking up.
Okay, so it sounds like a lot, but I did a mock draft, and the mock draft was about 14 pages. I just basically went through, tried to accumulate things that I've listened to, things that I've read, and also just things that I think would be good for these teams. I'm obviously a Cowboys fan, but I tried to take that out of it and just try to go through and see which players I like and things that I've heard about, basically. And then just go through and try to take a guess. A lot of this is going to be probably very wrong. There's going to be trades that I didn't do, but it's always fun to try to take a guess. There's a few that I feel really good about, and then you just get some teams that are going to be super aggressive and things like that. There's so many variables going into this. you just do your best and try to take a guess. And it's a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. And then I will say there is a few things that I get nerdy about and try to do some research on some late round guys and things like that. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that I have for you. It turned out to be about 19 or 20 pages.
Nice. Love it. And kind of like the scale of your favorite sports days of the year, where does day one of the NFL draft rank for you?
Oh man, it's probably college basketball, March Madness, followed by probably the Super Bowl, and then probably NFL draft, NBA finals, that kind of stuff. I'm a basketball guy first, and I'm a little late to the draft stuff this year. Shout out Troy Trojans, won a district title that I'm coaching for, so that put me a little bit far behind, but it's been fun trying to catch up and everything. And there's been so many things even in the last couple of days that have been rumored and stuff. It throws a wrench in everything. But that somewhere around third or fourth in my sports things, yeah.
I think before we get into it, I think them moving the draft to Thursday and going prime time on Thursday has been a phenomenal decision. Like they've taken over the whole week. I've seen this thing, like the NFL has basically taken over the entire sports calendar. They're playing in September through February. You kind of get March off. There's some free agent stuff, but then there's, the draft in April. Then you start getting into OTAs in the off season. By August, it's, NFL everything preview. So I think they've done just a fantastic job. Do you like the draft more on Thursday than the Saturday morning?
I do. I do think personally it'd be fun even if it was just Friday, Saturday. If they did the first 2 rounds on a Friday and then 3 through 7 on Saturday, I think that would work too. But I love the idea of you could tell all these GMs and scouts and stuff how nerve wracking Thursday night into Friday must be for them. You're sitting there and you're just looking at your board that they have in all their draft rooms. And they're just like, man, we really like this guy. And they have 24 hours basically to be like, what can we do to get this guy and this guy? Whereas before it was like, boom, 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 boom. You had to, you're just on the fly calling people all the time. And now you have, between 12 and 24 hours in between a lot of these picks.
Yeah, it's definitely
it's cool though.
Yeah. Well, man, let's dive into it. I don't think the first one's going to be much of a surprise. I'm guessing Bryce Young, number 1.
Yeah, we got the Carolina Panthers at number 1, drafting quarterback Bryce Young from Alabama. I really wanted to put Stroud here because if we would have asked anybody 2 months ago when that trade went down, everything was saying CJ Stroud was going to be the pick. They were like, oh yeah, they're going up to 1 to get CJ Stroud. And then all of a sudden, within the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's getting more clear that it's probably going to be Bryce Young. And I think it's a good pick. I think Carolina moved up, obviously, for a quarterback. And I think on a lot of people's boards, he's the number 1 guy. And I don't think there's really any question here for number 1. I'd be very surprised if it wasn't Bryce Young.
Yeah, the big worry with Bryce Young, he's not big. CJ Stroud is the bigger of the guys. So, is that a big worry about him?
I think there is some worry about the physical traits and stuff, but I think his intelligence and being a starter for Alabama at that high level for 2 years and taking him where he was and, Heisman's and, even just being in that conversation. And so CJ Stroud, in fairness. But I think a lot of guys just look at Bryce Young as being more of the safe pick.
Mm-hmm.
And with a valued position like the quarterback, I think Carolina wants to get their guy.
Yeah. And before we get too deep in here, you said you weren't guessing on a bunch of trades. You kind of went down the row as who's got those picks. Because like you said, if you start trying to guess trades, you're just there's endless possibilities of what could happen. So
yeah, and we're about to really dive into where I think the draft could just go off the rails compared to what so the listeners out there are probably going to be like, man, MJ was really wrong on this, but Houston's such a big factor in how this draft's going to go, especially with the reports that not everybody's sold on CJ Stroud. Some of them like Will Levis more. Some of them don't want a quarterback at all. So it's going to be one of those things. It could be just smoke. It could be that they want CJ Stroud and they're trying to back some people off. It could be for a lot of reasons, but I think 2 is really when the draft starts.
Who do you got going there?
I have CJ Stroud. And
Okay.
it's one of those things. So for me, the Texans are going to have their quarterback. I think they have Davis Webb right now as a starter. They need a lot of help. To me, it's a no-brainer. I know he didn't do so well on one of the intelligence tests, and I think a lot of people got scared off by that. And I don't know if it's going to be the Texans that pick him at 2. But I think to me, from what I've read and what I heard, is CJ Stroud's the second best quarterback in this class. And I think a lot of the other stuff is just going to be smoke. I also think CJ Stroud might not be picked until the teens. So it's just this was one of those things where I think Texans get a quarterback. I don't know if they'll actually do that, but for me in this mock, I think he's the second best player. So I'm taking him there.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there like kind of I don't think, because it seems like there's going to be quarterbacks going early in this draft. So I don't think we're ever going to see the Aaron Rodgers situation in this draft. But you just said it. Do you think there's a possibility that if he doesn't go here, he could slip to 13, 14, something like that? You just said. So that's very interesting.
And I
was seeing in a lot of mocks, Will Anderson, the end out of Alabama there. But I mean, CJ Stroud's, I've seen him and a lot of them like 3, 4, if not 2. So I can't say I'm super surprised by you throwing him out there.
And what's crazy about that too is, like I was alluding to, is if he doesn't go 2, I really think Richardson or Levis go to the Colts, as you'll see in a couple picks. And CJ Stroud could drop, and he could drop kind of far. That could be a surprise. But to me, I think Houston would be making mistakes. So if I was in Houston's position, I think I'd go with CJ Stroud and try to build around him. You might take some bumps, but you could give Davis Webb another year and just say, hey, CJ, you're just going to sit. When we get to 3-10 this year, we'll throw you in with 4, 5, 6 games left in the season and get your reps in. And then you're going to have a whole offseason. We're going to try to make some trades, make some noise. We have multiple picks. And we're going to try to surround you with some talent and see what you got.
Yep. Yeah. And because you see, the next, and some mocks I see, the next quarterback off the board, it's the Titans at 11. Mm-hmm. You have the Colts at 4. So, like, after the Colts, there's kind of a little spot where there's not a lot, like, teams that aren't super hungry for quarterbacks. Like the Seahawks, they're good. The Lions, nobody really knows. The Raiders seem to think they've got a quarterback for now. Yep. Falcons, maybe. Bears think they got their guy. So, I can see him kind of dropping a couple. That leads us to the Cardinals at number 3.
So I do think if CJ Stroud is not the pick, or Will Levis is not the pick at 2, or something, I think Arizona does try to move out of this pick. I think that's fair. They got to hang with Murray for a little while, even though he's probably busy playing Call of Duty, and Buda Baker's asking for a trade. They need there's a lot of things going on there. The coach left, and all this stuff. But I think if they're there at 3, I think they take the edge rusher, Will Anderson Jr. out of Alabama. I think most scouts and stuff that I've read have him as the best edge rusher in the class. And if you can get that guy at 3, I think that's what you do. The best non-quarterback, I think you go with there.
Mm-hmm. As far as best non-quarterback guy, do you think Anderson's better than Jalen Carter, like, on the field, or do you think, are we weighing in kind of Carter's character issues? I don't know what you would call them, but
so I think Jalen Carter to Arizona would not be a big, like, wow, I can't believe they did that and stuff. And I know Jalen Carter, I think it was recently noted that I don't think he's going to serve any time or anything for what happened. But I do think new coach, new atmosphere, you just want to build on guys that are just going to be good and, do the right things, take the right step forward. And I think Anderson's probably the safer pick. But I will say defensive tackle is at one of those positions that this year is pretty deep. But most years, if you look around the league, I would say guys who know the NFL kind of understand like defensive tackles don't just come around.
Yeah.
Like a good defensive tackle is really, really hard to find. And I would say at least 20 to 25 teams in the NFL are looking for a really, really valued defensive tackle. And if you have one, it's a commodity. Like
Yep.
they don't come around. So I wouldn't be surprised, but I went with Will Anderson Jr. there.
I think it makes sense. And I think you make a great point about new coach. Like you want your pick to work. Like you don't want to get into like something right out of the gate and you've got like a problem like right away. So I think I'm going to agree with you. Brings us to the Colts at number 4. Another quarterback here?
Yeah, man. I had a lot of back and forth of this. I'm going to stick with my gut and stick with the guy that I heard most of and read most about going to the Colts at 4. And I'm going to go quarterback Anthony Richardson out of Florida. I think this could very easily be Will Levis. I think even if somehow CJ Stroud is available, I think that could be an option. The one spot I don't see is the Colts going to 2 just because of the division rival with the Texans. But if they're sitting there, I think the whole Will Levis thing, I think, is one of those things that could be that thing where you all of a sudden it's like, oh, we've heard so much about him over the last week or two. He's jacked out of his mind and he's throwing the ball 90 miles an hour and all this stuff. But I think they liked Richardson. I think if he's there, they could take a shot at him. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Will Levis, but I think they go with Richardson, big body, can stay healthy against a decent offensive line. They have a good running back, a pretty good defense. I think there's some pieces there, so I think they take a chance on Richardson from Florida.
And I don't follow the draft nearly as close as you do, but it feels like Richardson and Levis, like the last like month maybe, there's been a lot of like momentum for those guys. Like it felt like, all of a sudden it's like I knew who they were. Like I knew Will Levis because he was at Penn State and transferred. And I remember hearing Anthony Richardson, and then when you see the dude, you're like, holy shit, you can't really forget him. He's like carved out of stone. It feels like they've got a lot of like momentum the last month or so here and are really like climbing the draft board. I mean, am I imagining that, or is that something that has kind of been happening?
Every year there's these guys that test well at their pro days and test well at the combine. That's when they start to make their run. And some of it is they're like, wow, we can really value this guy by just blowing smoke up everybody's ass. Like we really like Will Levis. We might take him at 4. We like Richardson. Like he could go as high as the second quarterback taken. Like, and sometimes I think they just put it out there to try to get other teams to panic and jump. And I think sometimes it gives the media and other outlets stuff to talk about as well.
Yeah.
But I think if the Colts don't take a quarterback, I don't know what they're doing, because I think right now Nick Foles is their quarterback.
Yeah.
And I know he's won a Super Bowl, but man, like you got to do something. So
that's going to be a long time ago.
Yeah. And so it has to be Levis, Stroud, or Richardson there. And I think they really liked Richardson at first. And I think people in that room are going to stick up for him. And like I said, I'll probably be wrong on most of this, but that's who I'm going with.
Yeah, I don't even know whose I have up right now. It's Matt Miller from ESPN. I think that they have CJ Stroud going in that spot. So
yeah.
I mean, you seem to have the same general idea as some other people. Next, we got the Seahawks. Is this where we see Jalen Carter?
I do have Jalen Carter from Georgia. This is just kind of my gut telling me. And I know what was weird about this is when I started the mock draft like a week or so ago now, I was trying to find a spot. And at that point, I always saw him going between like 6 and 10. But I was like, you know what? Seattle would be a good fit for him. Like, I feel like no matter how you feel about them, they're a really good organization. They got a long-term coach. They're just the whole vibe around the Seahawks is typically like the players take care of the players. Like they have a lot of leadership in that room. And I think that could be good for him, and I think they feel confident. I wanted to slide him down to Detroit, but I almost feel like Detroit is a little bit more hard-nosed on being like, we want this specific type of guy first, then the football player. Whereas Seattle will be like, we got the super talented kid. We're going to make sure we support him and do the best we can.
We'll kind of deal with everything else,
Yeah.
and yeah, I agree.
And they might get the best player in the draft.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of people saying like he is. If you look at the skills and the attributes, like he's the best player there is. That moves us to the Lions at 6.
All right, so for Detroit, this was from the trade for out of the Rams. I have Christian Gonzalez, cornerback from Oregon. I really like this pick for him. I think this is, from what I've read, the best corner or top 2 corner. I think they're a little thin at corner. I know they brought some guys in, but I think they can build around this guy. And I just think this is a nice, solid pick. I know a bunch of them got suspended for betting on football. But I think these guys, I think this is going to be a really nice, solid pick. You get a guy that could be a shutdown corner, has good length, athleticism. I think this is kind of a no-brainer for the Lions.
No further comments for me there. Raiders next on the board in the 7th spot.
So I think, like you said, I think this could be quarterback. I think this could be. I mean, I've heard Bijan Robinson, but I think this one, it turns out to be a little bit of a reach. But I'm picking offensive lineman Paris Johnson Jr. From Ohio State. I think they go with the tackle. I think if you're Josh McDaniels in that team, you see Jimmy G needs a good running game. They got Josh Jacobs. They do have some good offensive linemen. And I think you put another young guy there that maybe could slide to right tackle or maybe even like left guard and just run the football, have Jimmy G throw it 15 to 20 times and then build up some defense later in the draft and maybe through some free agency or trades and try to win that division, which is a tough division. But
yeah, you got to imagine that's what they're trying to build with Jimmy G. Like, I think everybody knows who he is at this point. Like, I don't think he's really going out to win you the game, but if you give him the right products around him, like he won't lose it for you on most nights.
Yeah.
The Falcons, number 8.
Look out for C.J. Stroud here. If it goes Bryce Young and Will Levis or Richardson, the Falcons could be, I think, a team that can do this. But I went with another really good pick. So from things that I read, I thought these two could go kind of switch. But I went cornerback Devin Witherspoon from Illinois. I think Jalen Carter, if he's there, I think could be a good pick for them as well. But be careful of the quarterback. I think this could be quarterback. I don't know if Mariota and company is what they want to ride with for the next 5 or 6 years. But I think this kid, from everything I read, is really tough, super athletic. He draws a lot of flags is one of the things that is kind of thing. But, they let him play a little bit more in the NFL and things are handsy sometimes. And I think it just fits. I can just picture him in a Falcons uniform. So that's what I went with there.
Okay. Moving on, we got in the 9th spot. We got the dreaded Chicago Bears, the team nobody likes, but we still got to talk about them.
All right, so this is where I think you're going to start not liking my mock draft. Well, to be honest with you, I went offensive line Peter Skoronski from Northwestern.
Okay, Skoronski.
Now he played tackle at Northwestern. Shout out Jordan Clark. Big Northwestern fan, goes to Northwestern for his doctorate now. But
I want to point out all the shit we get from him. That's 2 weeks in a row he got a shout out. So,
but I think Skoronski's probably the best lineman in the draft. Even though I went Johnson, I think Johnson's more of that left or right tackle. So I think that's where the difference is. A lot of people say Skoronski's going to move to guard. But I think he's one of those guys like a Zach Martin, where if needed be, he could slide out to tackle. I think he could even play some center if you needed him to. I just think if Justin Fields is your guy, You got to protect him, and he's a runner. I think Skronsky could just flatten some defensive tackles and ends and linebackers in the league now. And I think this is a no-brainer for the Bears.
Perfect. The Philadelphia Eagles at number 10. I have been seeing a lot of Bijan Robinson, and it kind of confuses me.
It does and it doesn't for me. So
yeah, I should say I kind of get it at the same time that I kind of don't.
Yeah. I'd say I almost put him here, but I also was like, I think if I picked edge rusher Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech, and I think Tyree Wilson could go 3, 4, 5. I think he could go in the teens as well. But I think if the Eagles are sitting there, and I know the Eagles have edge rushers, and I know they need safety help, and this draft isn't really the draft to try to get some safety help. I think there's 1 or 2 safeties that you'll see go in the first 2 rounds. But to me, you just this is the best player available, I think, at that point. And so if they have to sit there at 10 and pick somebody, it could be Robinson, and I would hate that as a Cowboys fan. But I think Tyree Wilson's too valuable here, so I think they go kind of a strength on strength, and they got some guys that can get after the quarterback in Philly, and I think they add a young guy that can do the same thing.
Yeah, I've seen Tyree Wilson as high as 3, and I think I saw him at one point in at 12 or 13. So that next up is the Titans. You got to think Titans are going quarterback here, right? Like I've seen a lot of they like Will Levis.
And that's who I went with. I went Will Levis out of Kentucky. I think Philadelphia could move back and get a guy as that pick before, and I think the Titans could move up. I think the Titans, if Levis gets past Indianapolis, if their guy gets past Atlanta, I think they could go up and get Levis. I think Levis is a good fit. Can sit behind Tannehill for a year, and they can really try to build around Tannehill for this year and see what happens. And then if they're bad, now you can put in some young pieces around Levis for the next year. If they end up, like I said, with CJ Stroud and Bryce Young stuff, if you got a guy in front of them and you're 12 games in and you're out of the playoff picture, you throw your young guy in and get him some reps. So,
yeah, I think I like where you're going with all that because I think Levis needs some time. I just can't see him being like a week 1, even like a week 4 kind of guy. Like I think he's got to get like long portions of the year, and like you said, maybe sneak in at the last 4 or 5 games of the year at the earliest, and go from there. So that brings us back around to the Texans again. They got this one from Cleveland.
Yep. I'm going wide receiver Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State.
That is the exact person I did not want to hear you say because in my hopes is the Packers are going to have 13 from the Jets. That the Rodgers deal, I'm hoping the Rodgers deal is done. We're talking Sunday now.
Yeah,
I would have to imagine if the Jets and Packers are doing something, they're doing it this week. Like you got to think the Packers want something done before the draft. So I'm still holding out hope that they get the 13 from the Jets, and I was hoping they could go get Smith-Njigba and put some real, trying to put as many weapons around Jordan Love as possible.
Yep. So I think Njigba is the best receiver, I think, as most people would say. To me, so right now, Houston's sitting there with C.J. Stroud and Jackson Smith-Njigba. They get to go from college to the pros together. They lost Brandon Cooks in the trade with Dallas. They got some younger guys at receiver. They need some weapons. I think this is a good spot to get the best receiver in the draft. And this is usually, as we've seen in recent years, where most of those wide receivers start to go, is somewhere between 10 to 13 is when you start to see a run on receivers. So I think that fits. And it's a need, and I think the Texans go with the wide receiver, Smith-Njigba.
Okay. That takes us to number 13, the Jets for now.
Yes. I got the Jets going edge rusher Nolan Smith from Georgia.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of people that think he could be the best. I think he could fall into the 20s as well. But I think it's the best player available. I think the Jets defense is pretty darn good, especially in that division. And now you got a quarterback that's coming over from Green Bay, hopefully for them. That's going to score a couple more points. And really, I mean, they could win 12, 13 games with Rodgers at the helm with the weapons that they have on offense now. They have a good running back. I just don't see them going offense here, especially if they have Rodgers. So I think you take the best edge rusher left, and to me, that was Nolan Smith from Georgia.
And next up, the New England Patriots.
I got the Patriots. It's an interesting team, I think, but I'm going to go back-to-back Georgia Bulldogs, and I'm going to go Broderick Jones, offensive tackle. Okay. I think Mac Jones is their guy, at least for another year or two. And I think Bill Belichick has always wanted to play defense and run the football, and you win with good offensive and defensive line play. And I think this is a really good lineman that could help him out right away. And to me, it was one of the easier picks that I had in the first round.
Yeah, I don't think we're seeing skill position from Billy B in the first round. So
yeah. Unless they trade but yeah.
That brings me to my beloved Packers. Like I said, hopefully this isn't the first pick they've got. But if it is, I'm going to be bitchy next week. But I'm seeing, I don't think Smith and Jigba falls here, but I'm seeing that a little bit. Dalton Kincaid is a name I've seen a ton of. And then, you're seeing Zay Flowers kind of floating around. Okay. And I have seen an occasional Joey Porter Jr. To kind of beef up the secondary a little bit. So what are you thinking?
So I like all those picks. But I do think, and this is my exact words on my write-up, I said, my heart wants to go with the best available for the Packers, but history in my mind and my dear friends that are Packers fans give me little faith that they'll do that. So I think if they're at 15, I think they could trade back and get this guy. I really do. And I think a team like the Chargers could come up and get this guy because I think they really like him. But I went tight end Michael Mayer.
Michael Mayer, okay.
And I had Kincaid first from Utah. But there is some knee and back things I think going on with him. I think he's going to be fine. But I think Michael Mayer's he might not be the best pass catcher or the best blocking tight end. But if you combine all those things, I think it's clear in a way he's the best tight end. And I think
he's been getting a lot of Jason Witten comparison.
Yes. Yeah. It just, things that I've read and saw, there's not a lot of wasted movements in his cuts. He does need to improve some blocking technique, but he's good. He's strong. He wanted to be a basketball player when he grew up. He's big rebounder type, very Jason Witten and stuff. But I think this is a guy that could go to the Cowboys, I think, at 26. It could go to the Chargers at 21. But I think Michael Mayer's the best. And what I'm saying to you as a Packers fan is, how many years have you complained that they never gave Rodgers help, and now all of a sudden Rodgers is going to be gone, and now
it would be the most. I can almost fucking guarantee there's going to be a receiver. We're getting a skill position this year, and I'm going to be sitting there wanting them to do it because I think that's the way forward, but then being why couldn't we do this for the past 20 years?
Yeah. I will say my favorite player for the Packers was Skoronski from Northwestern. I think it'd be a fantastic pick for the Packers. I know they need to help outside and stuff, but I think it's a really, really good pick. And I think they also have a lot of needs. I was kind of looking at their roster. Some of their edge rushers are getting older. Their secondary's okay. They have some young guys that are good, but I think their linebackers could improve. I don't think they're going to go linebacker, but there's a lot of things that they need. But I think Michael Mayer would be a really good pick, and I think he'd be their tight end for 10 years.
I will second to the 1,000th degree. There are a lot of needs, and you hit on some of them. I think one of the reasons I mentioned Porter is I don't think the secondary is as good as kind of people like we kind of went into this year thinking the secondary was going to be awesome. And hey, maybe a little bit of that is the thought was that they'd be out in the lead and the people would have to throw on the secondary a little bit more. And without rehashing the entire Packers season there. But yeah, so we can move on so we don't get just caught up.
We have a question for you, though.
Yep.
If the trade goes down and Rodgers is in New York and they're at 13 or whatever, right? There could be
13, 15 if they get that.
Yeah, they could start throwing in some players and picks for next year too. So it might not be 30, but it could be. But what about quarterback? Do you think they're sold on Jordan Love? Do you think they're like he's our guy, we're going to try it out? Or do you think they could go up and be like, "Hey, we got some extra picks from the Jets. Let's combine."
There's a couple good quarterbacks coming next year, though, right?
Yeah, there is.
I'm not super. I think this is what I think. They are going to give. I think they like Jordan Love enough that he's getting 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he just is awful this year, they'll add the team option to keep him for the fifth year. And then if they don't like what they like it enough to like just go another year with him and just kind of hope and see. I think that's when they start thinking quarterback.
Okay.
Just my guess, because then if he's terrible, you get a high draft pick. You don't have to use a bunch of capital to get up there. Just a guess, but I think they're locked into 2 years of the Jordan Love experience here. So,
okay. All right.
Where were we? Number 16, the Washington Commanders with a new owner on the way.
Yep, nice, short and sweet. And I think Steelers fans are going to hate it, but I think this goes cornerback Joey Porter from Penn State. I think they just run up and get him if he's there.
Yep.
I hate it as a Cowboys fan, but I think going up against CeeDee Lamb and all those Philly wideouts and stuff, you get a guy that could be a shutdown corner for 7 or 8 years, and I think it's an easy pick for him.
And you think he's going to be a good player? I'm like, as a Penn State guy, I've seen him for a few years. Like, he was by far the best defensive player on the field for Penn State every game.
So I do. I think he's got the size. He's 6'2" and a half, 193 pounds. I think he's any scheme. I think from what I've read that he fits in. Like, he played bump and run. He could do all those things. I don't think he had a ton of interceptions. But he wasn't like a defensive holding guy. He wasn't getting penalized a lot. Like, he's just very sound. And I think it's just
think he did. I can't tell you for sure, but I feel like he played a little kind of safety.
Yeah.
Or at least kind of like a deep cover kind of corner stuff too. So I think he's kind of versatile.
Yeah. And he reminded me, like, watching some Penn State games, he kind of reminded me of like a Byron Jones. Remember Byron Jones for Dallas? And he went down to Miami. He's a Pro Bowl cornerback.
Yeah.
Super athletic, long, but you never really heard about him because whoever he was matched up against had 2 catches for 21 yards, and that was it. And then he just went about his business, real quiet. And I think that could be the type of player he is.
Yep. I think that's a good comp. Number 17, the Steelers.
So the Steelers, I got a guy who I think a lot of people are a little high on and also real low on is edge rusher Lucas Finesse from Iowa. I just think he's a young kid. I think he's only 21. But Pittsburgh is always one of those teams where it's like Finesse could go like 10 to the Eagles or 8 to the Falcons or something.
I've seen him up at I think the highest I've seen him is 9 to the Bears.
Or he could go like late first, early second. Like, it's a weird one, but I think it's because he's still kind of finding his way as an edge rusher. What better situation to go to? And I think the Steelers are just one of those teams that just sit around in the draft and they just get good players to fall to them. And I think this could be another one of those things. He could sit there and learn from TJ Watt and company and just be on this really good team and just help him out. Third down situations his rookie year. And just be a really good addition to kind of an uprising team a little bit.
the Steelers have, especially like the last 10 to 15, 20 years, have drafted phenomenally, really.
Yeah.
Next up, the Detroit Lions with their pick this year.
So Detroit's picked the corner in the mock so far. They went with the corner in the first few picks, the number 6. They're going defensive tackle Kalijah Cansey from Pittsburgh. I really like it. He's got kind of like that mean attitude from everything that I've read, and I think he's a little undersized if I remember correctly.
Only 6'1".
Yep. So, 6'1", 280. So it's kind of an undersized defensive tackle a little bit. But everything that I've read,
6'7", 40 though.
Yeah, just quick, good with his hands, like all that stuff that I've read. I just think it'd be a really good fit for Campbell and stuff in Detroit. And really, to me, so far, Detroit's the winner of the draft if they get those two guys. I think it's pretty easy. But I will say there's a team coming up that I think also could fight with that.
But next up is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're going to be a little bit of a new look. No more Brady. Brady's retired again for now.
Yep.
I'll believe that when like 2-3 years go by and he's not playing football. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
So I got offensive tackle Darnell Wright from Tennessee. I think I really like this guy. Like I had him highlighted on one of the guys. His name's Dane Brugler. He works for The Athletic. He does this every year. I'll show you guys real quick. He calls it the Beast, and he does. It's crazy amount of prospects. If you have time or the money and stuff to be able to buy The Athletic every month, it's the reason I have it. He's awesome. But my guy Darnell Wright was one of my favorite offensive linemen. I hope the Cowboys take him, but I think he'd be a good fit in Tampa Bay, trying to protect some of their quarterbacks, Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield and all those guys. So I think you try to win with some running backs. I think Bijan Robinson could be a good fit here. He's still on the board, but I like Darnell Wright from Tennessee.
Perfect. Next up, I'm wondering if this is who you're talking about being winners of day one. The Seahawks picking again here?
Who do you think I was going with?
Oh, gosh. Wait. No.
They went Jalen Carter at 5.
So I don't see you going. I've been seeing some stuff about Miles Murphy with them, but I don't think you're going there, just bolstering the D line and getting after it.
So, Seahawks were putting 40 burgers on people with Geno Smith, man. Like they got stuff.
Geno ain't right back, man.
They got Tyler Lockett on the outside, who's getting older, and they could go skill position here. But they got Metcalf, they got a decent line, they ran it well, they threw it well, but they just couldn't stop anybody. They couldn't stop anybody. And people, I remember, I think it was the Lions or somebody like that. I mean, it was just over and over. The Seahawks were just getting gashed on the ground. It was insane. So you draft Jalen Carter, you draft Miles Murphy, the edge rusher, who's big, strong. He's 6'4.5", 270. Now all of a sudden you have some pieces. I think it's a easy one. And I think them and the Lions with 2 picks in the first round have just helped out their defenses really well.
Immensely. 21, the Chargers.
So I think this could be Michael Mayer. I think this also could be Dalton Kincaid from Utah. But I went with wide receiver Jordan Addison from USC. I think he's the second best receiver, just plug and play. I know they have some receivers, but their receivers are getting older, and a lot of times their receivers are injured. And I think if you're trying to win, and I hate how no one talks about Justin Herbert in the window. Everybody, as a Cowboys fan, is always like, oh, Dak Prescott's only got a couple more years. The Cowboys can't do this. It's the same thing with the Chargers. Justin
Windows
Herbert
are really short in the NFL.
And Justin Herbert hasn't done anything. So if you want to win, give him some more weapons, see what he can do. And I think Jordan Addison's easy at 21. I think that's easy.
Yep. Number 22, the Ravens.
I think this is secondary help for the Ravens. Another time where just a good player falls to him. I took safety, Brian Branch from Alabama.
Yep.
I think this is just a good fit for him. It really depends on what Lamar Jackson and all that situations probably too. And I think we'll get a good idea of what they're thinking. But I think in the end, teams just are going to say, hey, this is our guy. We have him as the best player. It fits a need. We're going to take this guy. And I think this guy could be a really, really good steal at 22 for the Ravens.
Okay, nice. Number 23, the Vikings. Do we see another quarterback here?
It very well could be, but so this is one of those that took me a little while. So the Packers took me a while to pick. Minnesota, even the Chargers took me a little while, but I went only because of the position it is. I went defensive tackle Brian Breesy from Clemson. I think at 23, I think it could be late for him. He's a big dude. I think he's gone at this point, and I think Minnesota, if they're going to hang on to Kirk Cousins and ride this out with these guys for another year, sure up your defense a little bit more, stop the run, and I think this guy can really help them, and I think it's a no-brainer.
Okay. So we're going to wait on a quarterback for at least this pick because the Jags aren't picking one. So
they sure are not. So, I mean, you started off, man. They got their quarterback. They have ETN, the running back. Their defense has some young guys that are coming alive. I think this is a little bit of a reach, I think, but offensive guard Osiris Torrance from Florida.
Okay, that's the guy I'm super familiar with.
He's just a super, everything that I've read, super tough kid. He like his strength and body control are good. The only reason I think is sliding a little bit is he does have some trouble with some quick pass rushers. Like some quickness can get on him a little bit. But he's big. I think he's 6'5", 330. So he can move some people. And I think tackle wise in Jacksonville, I think they're okay with. But I think solidifying that middle of the line for them and helping Lawrence have a little bit more time will only help him. And I think this is just a good solid pick for him.
Very nice. Next, we're sneaking up on your boys here, but not quite. The division rival, the Giants.
Yeah, man. So, like I said in the beginning, I'm trying to take my heart out of all this and just do what I would do. So, if I was the Giants, I think they need outside help. I'd go wide receiver Zay Flowers from Boston College. When I saw comparisons with some guys that I like to read and respect, and they compared him to Steve Smith, the Carolina Panther, longtime Baltimore Raven. That told me all. Like he's 5'9", 5'10".
I think he's 5'9".
In everything that I've read, he doesn't play like that. He plays like he's 6 foot, 6'1", can go up and get some balls that he shouldn't even be capable of getting. And he has that grit and everything. And I just think the Giants go skill position here, and I think it's a good fit. And I'll be very sad, but I think that's what the pick will be.
All right, then we're on to your boys. The Dallas Cowboys are on the clock.
Yes. All right. So as I've said, I think offensive line is the position that I'd like them to go. But in my mock, all the guys that I think that I've heard that they like are gone. And Bijan Robinson's still on the board, but when we get to that pick, because he is a first rounder that I have, I'll tell you why I don't have him going to the Cowboys. I think this could be a lot of guys. I have written down Will McDonald, the fourth, edge rusher out of Iowa State. I've heard Dan Quinn really loves him. I think this could be Steve Avila, the guard from TCU. I think this could be Michael Mayer or the Kincaid kid from Utah, the tight ends. But I went, and I hate this so much. I went Drew Sanders, linebacker, Arkansas. I think Dan Quinn loves those guys on defense that can play multiple positions. Drew Sanders is a guy that can play some outside linebacker. He can play some Mike linebacker. He can edge rush. I think he's a poor man's Micah Parsons. And I think at the end of the day, Dan Quinn stands up on the table for him and says, this is the guy that I want. And Jerry Jones loves an Arkansas boy. So they go with Drew Sanders, the linebacker. And I not love it, but that's the guy.
All right. So disappointment in the voice of MJ with his Cowboys.
I was also disappointed with Micah Parsons. That turned out okay. So
you did. You were not happy with that. I remember that.
Linebacker in the top 12. It just doesn't make sense to me. But all right.
It worked out for you.
It did.
Closing in here, we're closing in on the end. Buffalo Bills in the 27th spot.
Yep. I got cornerback Deonte Banks, Maryland. I don't think a super flashy pick, but just a good solid corner. I think Bills could be movers, back or forward a little bit if their guys fall to them. But I think it's a good solid pick to shore up some defense, especially going against the likes of the Chiefs and Ravens and all that in the playoffs where there's a lot of passing. I think it's an important position for them.
Next, the Bengals. 28.
Man, I love Kincaid for them at tight end. I went with Luke Musgraves, tight end from Oregon State, though. I think he is just slightly under Michael Mayer in the aspect that I think he can block. He also got injured a little bit. I think he only played 2 games this past season. But he's big, 6'5", 250, but he's another guy that can really move at that size. And I think from what I've heard and read is they like him. So I'm going to go with Musgraves from Oregon State.
Any chance you see them going O-line to kind of bolster that even more?
So I thought about that one. But my only concern is if you're going to get a guy at 28 there with the guys that I already think are going to be gone, I think it's a little bit of a reach. So if they move back, maybe early third or second round and get some additional picks and then pick a guy, then I think it's good.
Okay. The 29th pick, the Saints, this pick has been all over the fucking country.
Yeah.
San Francisco, Miami, and Denver have all previously had this pick. I don't even I saw it and I'm like, I should look at how this got there, but it's just too much. So who do you like for the Saints here?
So this is a bit of a surprise because I've never seen this guy mocked to them. And I don't think he gets to 29. But I think this is running back Bijan Robinson from Texas. And Derek Carr's there now. Their defense is halfway decent. They're getting older, but I think they're okay. And they do have, Olave on the outside and some pieces that I think they can do. And they still have Kamara, but Kamara's getting older. Running backs, after year 5, 6, or 7, it's the decline starts.
He's starting to cost me a lot of money in fantasy, and I'm considering. I've had him as a keeper for a while, but it's an auction league, so the value is high now.
Yeah, and I just think this could be a situation where if the Saints can, they move up somewhere and get him. If Bijan drops to 19, the Buccaneers, or 20 to the Seahawks, who already had a pick, this could be a spot where the Saints say, like, we're going to go up and get this guy, and now we have our running back with Derek Carr. We're gonna sell out for these last 4 or 5 years. And we're going to go for it. And I think this is a good spot for him. I think he could get drafted as high as 7 to 10, but realistically, probably in the teens. But if he's there at like 19, 20, 21, the Saints go up and get him. So I just have him mocked here at 29.
I was going to say, before you kind of explain that out, I was going to say, this is by far the thing I disagree with you most. I have seen way too much about Bijan Robinson. Like you said, I think I've seen him I haven't seen him as high as 7. I've seen it as 9 or 10, but
Yeah,
I don't see any way in hell he makes it to them at 29. So
I 100% agree. 100% agree.
uh, the runners up in the Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles, your favorite team out there.
So they got their some edge help, strength on strength, and I said I think for Eagles fans, I'm not an Eagles fan at all, but I think they've neglected linebacker position for a long time, and I know they need some safety help. Brian Branch is gone off the board. I think they go Trenton Simpson from Clemson. I think it fills a need. It's a top 35, 40 player on a lot of boards. I think it's a good pick for them. And with their pass rushing, stop some running from some good teams instead of these schlubs that they stopped last year and everybody pretended they were really good. I think Simpson helps them out a lot, and the Eagles have had a really good first round. Tyree Wilson and Trenton Simpson.
Yep. And finally, the 31st pick, only 31 picks this year in the first round. The Dolphins forfeited theirs with some tampering stuff.
Yep.
The world champs, the Kansas City Chiefs.
So I found this interesting fact and I threw it in here. So I don't know, I don't really know much about this guy, but there's 17 players invited to the draft, and this is number 17. So something's telling me that he's going to get drafted in the first round. It's Keon White from Georgia Tech. He's an edge rusher. Helps out the Chiefs defense. I think it's one of the best players available. But something tells me like he's invited to the draft, and I know guys have fallen to the second round and stuff if they've been invited.
I was going to say, don't you have to invite somebody that's not going to get picked so they can make it awkward all fucking night?
Yeah, but I think at the last pick of the first round, they go and get an edge rusher that can help him. He's big. He's 6'4.5", 285. Can help him in the run game too and stuff. So I think it's a good pick. From what I've researched of him, he seems like a good player. So that's where I went with to finish off the first round. And it's going to be 100% correct. That's how it's going to go, everybody. So you don't have to watch Thursday.
Do you make it through 3 picks?
No, CJ Stroud's not going number 2. So at least like I said, I had to just line them up and say if I was the guy, I looked at needs, I read articles, I have some guys and scouts that I've read a lot of things. I watch some podcasts that they're in, and I just try to collect all that information and be like, okay, these are the tendencies these teams like to do. This is who I think they could go with. So and. Yep. It could be crazy Thursday night, though. It really could.
I think this is setting up that we're going to see some movement. We're going to see some trades. Like, I mean, just you've got the Packers and the Jets with stuff. You've got other teams talking. I mean, just in my world, all of a sudden the Niners are maybe interested in Rodgers again, and so like there's the possibility that Trey Lance is moving. Like, and if that's happened, you're bringing probably at least one, if not 2, other teams in. So. I think it could be a fun draft on Thursday night. Who do you think's the biggest, comes out of nowhere the most, like the highest riser in the draft? Like, somebody getting penciled in for the second round. Who'd you have climb the most on your board?
I'll spoil some of my day 2 prospects that are kind of projected round 2 and 3 that I think you could see in the first round. That Will McDonald that I kind of hinted at for Dallas. Dan Quinn really likes him. He's an undersized defensive end, outside linebacker from Iowa State. I think he's a guy that could jump up into that first round. I've read things on the wide receiver from Ole Miss, I believe, at Mingo, or that he's a late riser. In a lot of times, I saw him projected third round or so, but I've heard some teams have kind of fallen in love with him. Another guy that I really like is Steve Avila, the offensive guard from TCU. I think that could be a guy, big, strong kid, like just can move bodies. It kind of fits into like any kind of scheme type of guy. Mm-hmm. That's one guy that I kind of hope Dallas looks at. But those are some guys. I think the whole Will Levis thing is a little bit of a surprise, and I think he goes top 12. I just don't see him dropping any farther than that. Richardson's a wild card. I think if there's some teams that love him, they'll go after him, and if they don't, they don't. And he could go
I could
top
see him
five.
falling way down.
Yeah, or second round. Like I could see him drop into the second round. So there's definitely some guys that have gotten some late pushes, and most of that's from pro day and combines. And I also think some of that's just teams blowing smoke. But
yeah. Awesome. Well, that was pretty expansive there, man. I think you walked us through a lot of different scenarios, gave us a ton of good information, educated the hell out of me. Anything you want to kind of leave us with before we call this thing a day here, or any kind of parting thoughts?
No, man, it's super exciting. I hope everybody has fun. Follow my picks if you want to. If you wrote them down or whatever, they'll be a lot wrong. But there's always surprises. But I hope I gave everybody some information. Like I said, not an expert, just a passer of information. Kind of nerding out a little bit, but it was super fun, and I'm glad you asked me to do it again this year. And we'll have to recap after.
Yeah. Hopefully we can lock you down, and we'll have you back next week to kind of to recap and talk about it. So, MJ, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for being on. Thanks for being the first dude to kind of jump on and do the video thing. Hopefully, when this comes out on Tuesday, everyone's actually watching us and not just listening. Hopefully, it works. So, MJ, I appreciate it. I appreciate you, and thanks again, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you, buddy. Have a good one.
Okay, everybody, let's talk some fight game. Big fight this weekend. Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia. And I was on the fence. I think I'd mentioned that. I was on the fence about possibly I was going to get it, possibly I wasn't. It was $85. Turns out it was like $60 on DAZN, so $25 cheaper. I have that subscription for now. So we went with it, and I'm glad I did. It was a fun fight. Tank Davis, 7th round knockout, a vicious body shot that didn't even look like it hurt, but it just a well-placed body shot. I don't think Ryan Garcia was taking a dive or anything. I think he just got hit with the perfect body shot. What can I say? It was a fun fight. Like, it felt like a big deal as soon as they were both in the ring. Like, I could feel like my heart rate was up, like my anticipation. A very tense fight. Like, you thought it could end at any minute. I tweeted out I was rooting for Ryan Garcia, so I gotta find my tweet, but I think it was like I'm rooting for Ryan Garcia, so it's almost a lock that Tank Davis is gonna win. Let me find exactly what I tweeted, just so I don't misquote myself. Want Garcia to win, which makes me think Tank is probably a lock. Which is, after the knockdown in the second round, it was just trending that way. I thought it was going to be a more vicious knockout. Ryan Garcia looked fine in the opening round. Tank didn't do anything, so he won that round on my card. I had Garcia winning 2 rounds. He was winning the second in my card before he got knocked down rather, but not convincingly enough to do what the judges did there and award 10-9, and then one judge 10-10 round, which is fucking ridiculous. Like, Garcia was winning the round, but it wasn't like, to get a 10-10 round, you would have to say, like, you were going to give Ryan Garcia a 10-8 round, and that was no way was that happening. I thought Garcia was doing the right things in that second round. I just thought he was getting out of control with it. Like, you know what Tank Davis is about. Like, he's a counter puncher, big left hand, and the knock on Ryan Garcia has always been his chin's up and exposed, the right hand drops. And in the first round, the right hand was right here, right on his chin, the whole round. The second round, after he started having a little success, that right hand was falling. It wasn't even there when he started to unload some combinations. And then he overextended himself a little bit and just walked right into one. Popped right back up, which I thought was a good thing. Like, I thought that was a great sign that he popped right back up. And, he took the standing 8, but, he was up on his feet quickly. Didn't seem like that one really affected him. Luke Campbell dropped him in the second round in their fight that he went on to win. So didn't think that was going to be a thing. Then got super tentative for rounds 3, 4, and I think into 5. Looked good in 6. And I thought was looking good in 7 and was winning the 7th round. But alas, when you got punching power like Tank, and he's a super accurate puncher, I think he landed 48% of his power punches in the fight, which is an absurd clip to land punches. So yeah, but yeah, the judges again. How can we be awarding 10-9 rounds and 10-8 and a 10-10 rounds in a knockdown? The 10-10 is the most egregious. I can let the 10-8 slide. I mean the 10-9 slide. I still scored it 10-8. I didn't think Ryan Garcia was doing enough that Tank didn't deserve the 10-8. Ryan Garcia, humble in defeat. Good to see. I would like to see that fight again. I don't think we will for a number of years if we see it at all. If we do see it again, it's definitely at like 140. I think Tank finally proved what a lot of people have been saying, and I think without a lot of justification, he was winning and he was knocking people out. But those were people he should have been beating. So I think he finally proved once and for all he's a man. Like he's a pound for pound top 10, 12, one of those. He's right there. So yeah, that was a great night for Tank Davis. I saw a lot of people online bitching that they couldn't get to watch the fight, so a lot of people were trying to buy it, which is a good sign for those guys. I think it shows that if you give people the fights they want, people will support it in boxing, which is always a worry because boxing doesn't give you the fights you want. We're 4 years too late on Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. So where does Ryan Garcia go from here is anyone's guess. He's going to go up to 140. He's going to fight at a weight he's more comfortable at. There are good matchups and fun matchups for him at 140. Tank's the bigger question. Devin Haney and Vasily Lomachenko are scheduled to fight on the 20th of May for the undisputed 135-pound championship. Tank's only really won one title in his life. He's the king of the regular belts, which are just bullshit made up things. I mean, there's 4 belts in boxing in every division as it is, and then there's like these regulars and interims. And Tank's been just racking up the regular belts, which are like second tier belts. When there's already 4, like be somebody, go get them. You're obviously good enough now. You've proven that. Can we get a real belt? He won one belt at what? Super featherweight 122? Was that where he won his belt at? So will he fight the winner of Devin Haney and Vasily Lomachenko? If it's Devin Haney, I don't know if Devin Haney wants to stay at 135 again. But a Devin Haney Tank Davis fight, that's a big fight. Again, 2 more Americans. That was the big selling point of this one. 2 young, undefeated Americans. It would be the same thing. Devin Haney is a very, very skilled boxer. And Tank would have to go be a little bit more aggressive because if not, Devin Haney's going to jab him to death and probably win that one. Lomachenko, that's a whole different story. I don't know how that fight goes. I don't know what we're going to see out of Loma. He's an old guy now. He's only had, some 20, close to 20 professional fights, but over 300 amateur fights. He's in his mid 30s. I'm very interested to see. Lomachenko will stay at 135 and fight him, no doubt. 135 is probably a weight class too high for Lomachenko. 35 is definitely probably too low for Haney. They would have to get that fight done at the end of this year, I would have to imagine, for that to happen at 35. So, yeah, that was all I had for Fight Game. I didn't watch the UFC, but Sergey Pavlik starched Curtis Blades. So there was that. I saw a lot of forget Stipe, give John Jones Sergey. That's not going to happen. Stipe, John Jones is a much better selling fight, and that's what's going to happen next. So I don't think there's anything great. Let me double check the UFC here. I don't think anything great coming up from them. In my eyes, I should say. There's some people out there that probably think what's coming up next for them is going to be awesome. Song Yadong next week on the fight night. I like Song Yadong. I like watching him fight. His fights are usually fun, so I'll probably actually toss that on. UFC 288, May 6th. That's Cinco de Mayo weekend. Canelo will fight that night. I will not be paying for $60 to watch Canelo fight fucking John Ryder. Aljamain Sterling, Bahal Muhammad, and Gilbert Burns. Yeah, this one doesn't do it for me. Yeah, that one's just not doing it. That one doesn't do it either. What else we got? What's 289? Nunez and Pena, Oliveira, and Beneil Dariush. We'll see. So yeah, that's all for the fight game. Time for some passing thoughts, ladies and gentlemen. It's that time of the episode. You get my passing thoughts. So this is going to combine a couple of different things. I didn't feel like doing separate segments for golf, for basketball, for hockey, all that stuff. I didn't have that much to add for it, so I'm kind of throwing them all into this passing thoughts thing because that's kind of where they are. They're a passing thought for me this week. Golf. Nick Hardy, Davis Riley, they win the Zurich. I watched 15 minutes of this, maybe 15 minutes of this. Nick Hardy, Davis Riley, 30 under, 7 under today in alternate shot, which is balling. Speaking of balling in alternate shot, Adam Hadwin and Nick Taylor, 63, 9 under in alternate. They parred in from 14, parred their last 5 holes. 5 holes! And still shot 9 under. 10 birdies. 10 birdies and a bogey. Just absolutely incredible. Just 7 birdies for Hardy and Riley. 65 today. Just that's good playing in alternate. 63 on Saturday in the best ball. The Friday alternate was 66. Nothing wrong with that. And a 64 best ball in round 1. So that was pretty good playing, I would say. Pretty good playing. Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay, the big names in this tournament, they shoot 6 under in alternate today and kind of move up the leaderboard a bit. The Fitzpatricks kind of fell down the leader. They shot 2 over today. Colin Morikawa and Max Homa, excuse me, got cut. My new favorite team out of this was I did watch a interview with Keith Mitchell and Sung Jae Im where Keith Mitchell was talking about how he was teaching Sung Jae about football and how he's a new Georgia fan. He said he just moved to Georgia. He must live at Sea Island with all those guys there, and that must be how that team came about. Couple quick notes from the golf world via Monday Morning Q, the Twitter, which is if you like golf, this is a great Twitter to follow because you can hear about kind of all these different obscure like golf things in the world. So my man comes up with all sorts of stuff from qualifiers and college tournaments. So this was something. The tweet reads, there are meltdowns, then there are meltdowns, then there is this meltdown. In a mid-AM qualifier, this gentleman needed a 9 on the last hole to get through, even after doubling the 17th. He needed to make a 9. He made a 12 on the final hole. He finishes to shoot 78. 78. He finishes bogey 4 on a par 3, double bogey 7 on a par 5, and then a octuple bogey? Is that even how 8 over? 12 on the final hole to shoot 78 and miss by 3. He shot 46 on the back 9. That's 10 over. He was 11 over in his last 3 holes. Half of his score on the back 9 came in those last 3 holes. 23. Think about that. 23 strokes on the final 3 holes, 23 strokes on the first 6 holes. My God, do I feel for this guy. That is rough. I have made a 12 in competition on my 18th hole of the day. I made a 12 to shoot 81 at Honesdale Country Club on my 18th hole of the day. It is the 9th hole, I believe. I think we just went off in tee times that day. 9th hole, it runs parallel to a road, and I pumped. Let me think about this. I didn't put the first one in the road. There are out of bounds stakes, maybe, I don't know, 5 yards. It's been a while from the road, and I put one, I don't know, half a foot outside the out of bounds stake. Like, could have hit it. There's nothing over there, no trees, no hazards, nothing. I could have hit that some bitch. I hit it hard too. Like, I could have knocked it on the green darn near, I think, from there. But I was out of last. I was out of bounds by under a foot. I pumped at least the next two across the road. Like, see you later. Mind you, there is miles, like literal. There's probably 4 miles right that is all golf course, that is all in play. And I'm just pumping them left. Just see you later, ball after ball. So 1 in, 2 out, 3 in, 4 out, 5 in for sure, 6 out. I hit a 4th in, so 7 in, 8 out, 9 off the tee in play finally. So 5th ball, 10 on or around the green. I can't remember. And then I remember I had a 4-footer for birdie, and I walked off the green. It was in a tournament called the Coal Scuttle, and one of my partners that was on our team for the TCC goes, birdie? And I said, yeah, on my 5th ball. And he said, oh my, that's not good. So yeah, I made a 12. I finished my round with 7 over par to shoot 81. I don't know if it was par 72 when you add it up, or if it was par 71, but I was playing a nice round of golf and ended up shooting 81 instead of like 74 or 75. So I understand the pain of that dude. Not really at all, but I get it in some way, shape, or form. The other good Monday morning cue. This one hits home. Coach Jeffy is giving us updates on his team at the conference tournament that he coaches. And he sends us this thing for Monday morning. He's like, this dude was playing in the tournament. Apparently the Winds were whipping for the MAC conference tournament at Huntsville. And Monday morning Q, he just said this dude. He doesn't call anybody out, and I appreciate that. That's cool. This dude in a D3 tournament today made 10 bogeys, 3 doubles, an 11, and an albatross. A 2 on a par 5. That is really something. I think my man shot like 92 or 93 with a tross in there. But hey, 92, 93 with a tross and an 11. Hey, it all evens out. Go Cougars. That's all in the golf world. No, it's not all in the golf world. There was a really weird one on a Corn Ferry Tour event. I forget the dude's name. He ended up missing the cut because of this penalty that he had assessed to him. There is what's called a model local rule. You probably heard about it with the golf ball that they're talking about. So this dude is walking off the 18th green, and there's a volunteer tournament worker, tournament organizer in a cart as he walks off the 18th green. And the guy goes, oh, are you shuttling us back to the first? And the worker says, yes, I am. Hop in. So this dude gets in along with his 2 playing partners, and they get a ride to the first tee. Well, it comes out, excuse me, that wasn't an approved shuttle. There was a local rule that you're only allowed to take a shuttle like from one hole to another hole. I don't even remember which one it was. 18 of the first tee was not it. 2-stroke penalty. He goes from making the cut to missing the cut. It was his 8th guaranteed start that he earned from Q School, and now he's out of the tournament. The 2 other guys, one guy missed the cut by a ton. It doesn't matter. The other guy makes the cut by a ton, falls back a couple strokes, so it hurts him. But the guy missing the cut on his final guaranteed go at it really hurts. And then there's an update again. Monday morning Q, great info here. Calling it Shuttlegate. Somebody else read the article, realized that they took a shuttle from the 9 green to the 10 tee, so not 18 to 1, but 9 to 10, and called in the penalty on himself, and said there were 2 6-seat carts parked right off the green. Both had volunteers driving. They were the second group off that morning, so they got in the shuttle and they kept going. So bad look. The tour, the Corn Ferry Tour should figure something out. Maybe give that guy, like, these guys had to take penalties because carts were placed in places that looked like they should be getting rides from, and with volunteers offering them rides and giving them to them. the rules are the rules in golf, and I'm not one for we should make a bunch of exceptions, but these are some bizarre scenarios that I think maybe we should consider why these things happened. Like, that was a mistake anybody can make. And again, not everybody made it. Very few people made it. So does it suck that maybe that's the way it needs to be and they just need to stay like that? Yeah, maybe. But that's a weird one. That's a weird one. I don't think anyone gained too big of a competitive advantage from taking a shuttle from a couple holes. And props to the dude for calling in the penalty on himself after reading an article online. That's, that's something. Okay, now I'm done with golf. Maybe I could have had a golf segment. You never know. Let's talk Stanley Cup playoffs. I believe it's all the favorites. Colorado leads. Minnesota is not the favorite. They're a little bit of an underdog against the Stars. Vegas are the favorites, and the Kings. Okay, so of the four I read in the West, half are not the favorites. All 2-1 out in the West, every series. Rangers 2-1 lead over the Devils. Carolina 3-1 lead over the Islanders. That one looking to put away there. The Maple Leafs over my Lightning 2-1. My Lightning gotta figure something out. And then the Boston Bruins, they're up 3-1, the best team throughout the regular season. So going to be tough to catch them, I would have to imagine, for the Florida Panthers. In the NBA, some things to look at. The Bucks, without Giannis, are now down 2-1. The Knicks up 3-1, finally coming back. Philadelphia, the Sixers get a sweep in the first round over the Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn Nets, not really the team that got them there, not really the team that's playing. Obviously, Kyrie, KD gone in the middle of the year. Boston's up 2-1 over Atlanta. Denver looking to close out over Minnesota here shortly. Phoenix up 3-1 over LA. Golden State and Sacramento. I didn't see that game, but I think I saw something. Steph Curry called a timeout they didn't have, and did that they end up losing that game because of that? Let me pull this up here quick. No, they ended up winning anyway, despite Steph Curry calling a timeout that they didn't have. And again, I think that's what happened. I did not see it. And then the final search to talk about the Memphis Grizzlies and the LA Lakers. I threw this game on. It was in the fourth quarter the other night of game 2. And I want to preface this with, I enjoyed the hell out of watching the rest of the game. When I turned it on, I didn't know anybody on the court but LeBron. KD was on the bench. D'Angelo Russell was on the bench. I couldn't name a single person on the Memphis Grizzlies other than Ja Morant, who was out. They showed him, but he was not playing. Then now I know somebody on the court that was on the court. Dylan Brooks. Dylan Brooks was talking mad shit. That did not work out for homeboy, because in game 3, after he said LeBron's too old, they came out. LeBron scored, I think, 6 of the first 8 points, and the Lakers fucking boat raced the Grizzlies in the first quarter. 35-9. 9 points is all the Grizzlies scored. 9 points. 9. I'm counting them. I'm showing you hand signals because I'm on video and I can do that now. 9 points. Absolutely incredible. They ended up making it closer. They outscored them in the second quarter. Lakers outscored them in the third, and then the fourth quarter they outscored them by about 10. Only ended up losing by 10 points. Ja Morant had 45, 9, and 13. That is balling. He's good. He should probably stay out of trouble because he could be pretty good at basketball. What did LeBron end up with? 25, 9 boards, and 5. Not bad. Not quite the 40, but message sent anyway. And Dylan Brooks gave him a little sack tap and got tossed from the game. So that was interesting. Here's a couple things. I'm about to lose my mind for like the next 5 minutes probably. I saw multiple things online. I'm looking through my pictures here. Multiple. Where politicians. So first was Los Angeles Councilwoman Neetha Rahman. I apologize that I butchered your name. I do. She voted against a motion that make it illegal to have a Cadillac converter in your possession that does not belong to you. And then basically went on to say why is that it's Toyota's fault because the Cadillac converters are too easy to remove. Not the people who are fucking stealing them, because that's what's happening. People are stealing things off cars. It's not their fault. It's fucking Toyota's fault. The people are stealing them. Well, not to be outdone. Ah, shit. I didn't see who this dude was. Oh, great. There was somebody. Is this dude an AG in like San Fran or something? I don't know. Was calling for action against Kia and Hyundai because they don't have proper. Oh, here's what he was asking for a federal government to institute a nationwide recall on Kia and Hyundai cars because they don't have proper anti-theft devices. Hear me out. Hear me out. Let me know if this is a fucking crazy thought. I don't know. Just bear with me. What if, I know this is going to be fucking crazy, guys. What if we just tried to stop people from fucking stealing cars? Is that a possible idea? No. We just don't want to stop fucking crime? Like, maybe it's a bad idea to fucking steal shit? No, it's not. No, not their fault. Not the people stealing shit. You know whose fault it is? Those people who make the damn cars. Fucking idiots. Fucking idiots. And you know what? I don't even think that's the dumbest thing I fucking read this weekend. You know what else I found out? That there has been a revamp. Let me get this thing up here. There's been a revamp of federal rules on mortgage fees. Mortgage fees, not the actual mortgages themselves, but some fees attached to them. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are going to enact changes to fees known as loan level price adjustments, LLPAs, you may see them listed as, on May 1st, that are going to affect mortgages at private banks nationwide. Wells Fargo, JP Morgan, Chase, all those things. And it kind of tweaks your interest rate. What's going to happen is credit scores from 680 to 780 and above are going to have an adjustment made to add a percentage point, a 1% surcharge, which is an increase from a 0.25% surcharge to their mortgage rate. On the other side, 679 and lower will see a decrease from an old rate of 3.5% down to 1.75%. And you will also be hurt more by putting more down. That will help add to the surcharge versus the lower credit score putting less down will get the discount. In this example is used a 740 FICO score with a 15 to 20% down payment will face a 1% surcharge, an increase of 0.75% compared to the old fee of just 2.5%. Meanwhile, buyers with credit scores of 679 or lower will have their fees slashed, resulting in more favorable mortgage rates. For a buyer with a 620 FICO credit score and a down payment of 5% or less, gets a 1.75% fee discount, which again is a decrease from the old fee rate of 3.5%. Still, when absorbed in the long-term mortgage rate, that equates to a 0.4 to 0.5% discount. After all that mumbo jumbo, basically the thing is, the better your credit score, the worse rate you're getting, so that people with shittier credit scores can get better ratings. That's fucking bullshit. I've worked hard in my life to fucking pay my bills on time, to save up money to buy my fucking house. I deserve to be rewarded with a better rate than someone who didn't pay their bills on time and has a worse credit score and carries extra debt and doesn't save up the fucking money to put it down. I don't want people to get fucking hurt in life. But why should I have to? Why am I getting hurt because my credit score is better? Like, why is being responsible being penalized? Same thing with, it ties into the car shit. Like, why isn't it the person who's stealing the fucking shit's fault? Why is it somebody else's fault? It's always somebody else's fucking fault, and it's fucking annoying. Okay, I got it out of me. The last couple things, people are going nuts that they lost their blue check marks on Twitter. That was pretty fucking funny. Like, these people are like, I'm quitting. I can't be on Twitter if I don't have my blue check mark. You'll be all right, buddy. You're gonna survive. If you don't want to be on Twitter, whatever. But losing your check mark's not that big a deal. Like all these famous people. All right. Last thing, I find this interesting. I love like I don't love politics. I love like elections. I find them very intriguing, what it takes to win. And there was some polling done recently on nationwide and battleground states. And basically what it all breaks down to, in Michigan, DeSantis has an edge over Biden 45-43, but Biden has the 45-42 edge over Trump. Arizona similarly plays out DeSantis 48, Biden 42, but Biden-Trump is Biden 45, Trump 44. Pennsylvania, again, almost identical to Michigan. DeSantis 45, Biden 42, but you flip it, Biden 46, Trump 42. Something pretty interesting to consider, like for people working polls or working in those elections. DeSantis hasn't even announced yet, but interesting. I find that interesting to keep an eye on. How good are polls? They've been, pretty wrong, but kind of right. And who knows? Who knows what you can even trust? So, all right, that's it for my passing thoughts. It was a long one here. Let's go wrap this thing up. Closing time, everybody. I just want to say thank you guys again. Hopefully this worked. I don't know if I'm doing it all right. Hopefully it worked. Hopefully there's video out there that you guys watched for this episode. So again, hopefully it worked. That's all I can say. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate all you. Hopefully you enjoyed this new step I'm taking. Kind of different for me, and I don't know if scary is the right word, but a little scary, a little intimidating. So again, I want to say thanks again to two people that really kind of have helped with this. Dean at the Tailgate Foodie, check out his stuff. He's got great stuff. But thank you. He kind of was like, yeah, just go for it. Do it, man. So I appreciate you. And Big Kevy, thanks, man. I've been just bouncing stuff off you. And you're probably like, how stupid is Wally? So thanks, gentlemen. We're back next week. We got draft recap. Hopefully we can get MJ back. I think as long as we can make schedules work, I think we're pretty good to go on that. There'll be an actual golf tournament to talk about, more passing thoughts, more NBA playoffs, more NHL playoffs. So looking forward to next week. Hopefully this is a good first run and we can keep the video going and be right back here doing the same thing next week. So till then, peace.